reading these words. A presence, familiar yet elusive. You call it you. But who exactly is doing the reading? The eye that watches thought, the ear that hears silence. Who or what is it? Pause. Let's slow down. Let's peel away the layers. Most people believe they are their mind, their thoughts, their memories, their choices. But that belief is not born from investigation. It is inherited, rehearsed, and reflexive. Like a mask worn so long it begins to feel like skin. And yet, every once in a while something cracks. In a moment of stillness or deep meditation or intense loss or beauty, the mask slips. And behind it, there's a vastness, silent, watching, unchanging. We call it awareness, but words flatten it. We call it consciousness, yet it is not a thing to be grasped, only a mystery to be felt. This episode is an invitation, not to analyze yourself, but to dissolve into the mystery of the self, not to find the answer, but to see that the one asking the question may be the illusion itself. Let's begin by asking, when you think the thought, I am, what exactly is happening? Is the thought producing the self? Or is there a self already present that notices the thought? Look closer. Can you observe the thought without identifying with it? That tiny gap between the thought and the one who observes it. That is the gateway to everything. It's subtle, and for most of our lives, we never notice it. We race through experiences, caught in an endless loop of identification. I am angry. I am successful. I am broken. I am right. I am late. But in every one of these, the common denominator is not the emotion, not the belief, it's the I. But what is this I? Is it your name? Your memories? Your body? Those things change. Your body has aged. Your thoughts have evolved. Your identity has shifted again and again. And yet, something has remained constant. The witness, the watcher of all change. The stillness behind the stream. And yet, paradoxically, this witness has no form, no content, no voice of its own. It simply is, like the sky behind all weather. You can't touch it. You can't think your way into it. But you can notice it quietly in the space between moments. This is where things get radical, because if this awareness is constant, formless, and untouched by thought, then what you call yourself may just be a pattern of thoughts dancing within this awareness. A thought says, I am thinking, but the awareness hears the thought. A thought says, I am afraid, but awareness remains still. And in that realization, that you are not your thoughts, not your fears, not even your identity, there's a kind of ego death, not dramatic, not violent, but quiet, like a candle extinguishing in a room already full of sunlight. Of course, the ego doesn't like this. It tightens its grip. It says, this is nonsense. Of course I'm real. I'm thinking about this right now. But let's explore that voice, the one protesting. Is that you? Or is that just another thought being witnessed? This is the crux. The illusion of I isn't that there is no self. It's that we've mistaken the narrator for the true presence. We've collapsed identity into story, forgetting that the one who sees the story is not the story. This is where the ancient traditions meet neuroscience, where Eastern mysticism and Western philosophy quietly nod to one another. The Upanishad spoke of the Atman, the innermost self that is one with Brahman, the Absolute. Buddhism pointed to Anatta, the non-self, the recognition that no permanent identity can be found. And today, cognitive science describes the self as a modular construction, a narrative generated by the brain for survival and coherence. But behind all those frames, what's watching? Not your brain. You've never seen your brain. Not your thoughts. They change constantly. Not your memories. They're edited, rewritten, half true. So, who's left? Maybe it's better not to answer. Maybe the answer is the problem. This isn't about removing your sense of self. It's about loosening your grip on the illusion that you are the self. It's about relaxing into the awareness that's always been here. Before the name, before the story, before the ego learned to speak. So for now, don't seek. Just observe. When the next thought comes, don't chase it. Don't resist it. Just notice. There is a thought. And then return. Not to a center, but to the space that has no center. That's where this journey leads. Beyond the self, beyond the voice, into the silent knowing that you are not who you think you are. You are the one who is watching. The illusion of self doesn't vanish in a flash. It softens, like fog lifting slowly from a quiet lake. At first, everything in you may resist this unraveling. Your mind scrambles to reassert control. But I need a self, it pleads. I have responsibilities, desires, identity, direction. And yes, on the surface of life, you do. You play roles, you inhabit stories, you speak your name and remember your address. These things matter in the play of the world. But the deeper question is not whether the self is useful. The question is whether it is real in the way you've assumed. Solid, unchanging, central. It's not. It never was. Consider this. If you sit quietly without reacting to thought, without reaching for memory or imagination, do you still exist? Yes. But how? Without your biography, without your self-image, without your inner dialogue, what remains? Awareness, being, presence. These are not abstractions. They are the bedrock. And strangely, they don't belong to anyone. They just are. So what does it mean to live from this space? It means watching thoughts arise like birds across the sky, without needing to chase or cage them. It means allowing emotions to move through you, but not define you. It means acting in the world fully, freely, while knowing that no role can ever contain your essence. This is not detachment in the cold sense. It's intimacy on another level. Because when you stop clinging to the I, you begin to touch the world without a filter. The trees are no longer seen by you, they are simply seen. Music is no longer heard by you, it is simply heard. Love is no longer felt by you, it simply flowers without needing a possessor. This is what the mystics mean by union, not becoming something otherworldly, but becoming no thing so completely that everything passes through you. But this path isn't easy. The ego doesn't surrender gently. It may bargain with you. Okay, fine. I'll admit I'm not permanent, but at least let me be the observer. Let me claim the role of awareness. Clever, but false. Even the observer can be observed. Even the witness can be witnessed. And so the spiral continues inward until there is no place left to stand, no you left to claim the seeing. This is where language fails, because what remains can't be described, it can't be held, it can only be lived. But here's the paradox. When you stop trying to define yourself, life begins to flow through you with a kind of sacred ease. You laugh more because there's less to protect. You love more because you're not holding back. You speak truth because there's no identity to defend. You become like a mirror, reflecting, not clinging. Like water, shapeless, yet present in everything. Like space, holding all things but bound to none. And yet, to the world, nothing has changed. You still go to work, you still pay bills, you still forget where you put your keys, but inside everything is different. Because the center has disappeared, and in its place is peace. Not the peace of escaping life, but the peace of no longer resisting it. This is the quiet revolution, not louder opinions, but less attachment to opinion. Not higher status, but deeper presence. Not becoming more, but needing less. Because the truth is, you were never lacking. You were just mistaken about who you were. The self you've been defending all these years? It's a beautiful illusion. Necessary for the game, but not for the truth. The truth doesn't need a name. It doesn't need to be justified. It simply is. And so, the journey beyond the self is not a journey away from life. It's a return to simplicity, to silence, to being itself. You are not the voice in your head. You are the awareness hearing it, and that awareness has no beginning and no end. It's not personal, it's universal. So take a breath, let go of the narrative, just for a moment. Feel the spaciousness open behind your thoughts. That stillness is home, and in that home there is no illusion of I, only the echo of truth, whispering, I am. that I am. Let's sit deeper now, beyond thought, beyond idea. Let's approach the most subtle question of all. If awareness is what you truly are, why does the illusion of self feel so convincing? The answer lies not in the soul, but in survival. From the moment you're born, the brain begins constructing a model, a map, of you. It needs this in order to navigate the world, to distinguish self from other, to locate danger, to communicate, to belong, to build continuity across time. This model, the self model, is not bad. It's functional, evolutionary. It is in many ways a miracle of neural architecture. But just like a map is not the terrain, the self model is not the self. It's a simulation, useful, but not real. Imagine a puppet animated by invisible strings. Now imagine the puppet forgets the strings exist. It begins to believe it moves itself. It begins to believe it is the source. This is the ego, the voice that says, I am doing this, without ever noticing that the impulse, the breath, the heartbeat, none of these were authored by you. You don't choose to wake up in the morning. You don't beat your own heart. You don't digest your food or grow your cells. It all happens, and then thought arrives later and claims it. This is the great afterthought, the mind's illusion of authorship. And so the illusion persists, not because it's evil, but because it's invisible, like a lens you forgot you were wearing. But once you notice the lens, even briefly, the view begins to shift. You start to see that thoughts don't arise from you, they arise within you. Emotions don't belong to you, they pass through like weather across the sky. Even your personality, in the tightly held bundle of preferences and patterns, is just a temporary configuration, a wave, not the ocean. So who, or what, is the ocean? Let's look at consciousness more deeply. Modern neuroscience has no answer for why consciousness exists at all. There is no formula that explains how neural activity gives rise to subjective experience. They call it the hard problem. But what if it's only hard because the question is being asked from the wrong angle? What if consciousness isn't produced but is primary, not an output of brain chemistry, but the ground of being itself? Ancient traditions have whispered this for centuries. Advaita Vedanta says, you are not the body, not the mind, you are awareness itself. Zen says, show me your original face before your parents were born. Mystics in every lineage speak of unity, of dissolving into the one, and now physics is beginning to echo these mysteries. Quantum experiments suggest the observer plays a role in shaping reality, that what is seen is never separate from the one seeing. And so we return again to the watcher. You, not the thought of you, not the story of you, the seeing, the being, the presence before it all. But even the word you can mislead, because awareness is not owned. It doesn't belong to a person. It doesn't start or stop with your skin. It is vast, borderless, timeless, and within it, the play of self arises, dances, and dissolves. So how do we live in this world, knowing that the self is a dream? We don't reject the dream like we wake up inside it. We play our roles with grace. We feel fully, love fully, speak truthfully, but we do not cling, we do not grasp, because we know, at the core, that what we are is untouchable. And in that untouchability, there is compassion. When you realize there is no fixed you also realize there is no fixed other. Every person you meet is another wave, another shape of the same ocean. Their pain is not separate from yours. Their joy is not foreign. Their illusions are yours too, just wearing different masks. And so ego softens, judgment fades, connection deepens. This is not spiritual escapism. This is radical intimacy. To live from awareness is not to detach from life, but to become so present that nothing is excluded. Every breath, every sound, every fleeting sorrow, welcomed. You become transparent to yourself, not invisible, but clear, able to reflect without distortion, able to receive without resistance. And so, you no longer ask, who am I? Because the question dissolves into being. You no longer seek a label, a center, a name, because you are no longer limited to form. You are the silence before the voice, the stillness beneath the storm, the screen upon which the dream of self is projected. And that screen, it cannot be burned, it cannot be torn. It simply remains, luminous, open, untouched. In that place, life flows without friction, not because it is easy, but because it is true. You meet each moment as it is, not as the ego demands it to be. You suffer, yes, but the suffering is clean, not entangled in resistance. You act, yes, but the action is unburdened, not chained to identity. And when the story ends, when the body falls away, what remains? Not a name, not a legacy, not even a memory, only awareness. Vast, empty, full, without edge or origin. And so we return, again and again, not to seek the self, but to see through it, to rest in the mystery, to live in the lightness, to awaken, not as someone, but as everything. Let's go deeper, not forward, not backward, but inward. Let's go deeper, not forward, not backward, but inward. To the final echo of the question, if there is no fixed self, what lives your life? This is where the ordinary dissolves, where logic begins to stutter and language becomes a shadow of truth. Because what we're touching now is not an idea. It is a presence, wordless, formless, prior to any concept of you. You see, the mind always wants to know, to map, to name, to package reality into boxes it can carry. But this, what we're touching now, cannot be carried. It carries you. It doesn't arrive when the mind is sharp. It reveals itself when the mind is quiet, in deep meditation, in profound grief, in awe before a sunset, a death, a birth, a silence so complete it swallows the self. That's when it appears. Or rather, that's when you disappear, and it is all that remains. Some have called it God, others pure consciousness. Some call it the Tao, the Now, the Absolute. But names point, they do not contain. You cannot possess this. You can only be it. And to be it is not to become anything. It is to rest as what you've always been, before becoming clouded by thought, by story, by identity. This is the sacred joke. You spent your whole life searching for yourself, only to find you were never missing. You were always here, not as a someone, but as the awareness in which someone-ness arises. So let's breathe together, right now. No effort, no goal, just awareness of breath. Notice the inhale. Notice the exhale. Notice the noticing. Do you feel the stillness behind it? The unshaken presence, whether thoughts come or not? That stillness is you, the real you, the timeless you. And from this ground of being, life begins to blossom anew. Not as a performance, not as a projection, but as a dance of presence. You walk into the world without armor, not because you are invincible, but because there is no one left to protect. You speak truthfully, not to convince, but because truth flows naturally from emptiness. You love, not to gain, but because love is what remains when ego dissolves. In this state, even suffering changes color. Pain still arises, but it is no longer your pain. It is simply pain, seen, felt, allowed. Fear may still visit, but you are no longer trapped in its house. You are the sky through which fear passes, not the storm it claims to be. And when joy arrives, you do not grasp it. You do not say, "This joy is mine." You let it pass, as everything does. Because now you know nothing needs to be held. When you are the space that holds it all, this is the root of spiritual freedom. Not escaping the world, but seeing the world through different eyes. Eyes unclouded by identity, by judgment, by resistance. You become simple, transparent. And in that transparency, existence shines through you like light through crystal. Every moment becomes a mirror. Every breath becomes a blessing. Every being becomes a reflection, not of your mind, but of your own infinite self. Because when the illusion of I falls away, there is no distance left between the seer and the seen. The wave remembers it is ocean. The drop dissolves into sea. The separate self evaporates into wholeness. and life continues. You still pay taxes, you still feel heartbreak, you still get hungry, but inside, there is no hunger for identity, no thirst for approval, no chase for permanence. You are, and that is enough. So let this be your invitation, not to fix yourself, not to transcend, not to awaken in some distant future, but to rest, right here, right now, in this breath, in this silence, in this ordinary miracle of awareness, because the one who's been searching was never separate, the one who's been suffering was only a shadow on the wall, and the light that casts that shadow, that is what you've always been. Next time on the Beyond the Self series, we explore melting the mask. What happens when identity fades? Until then, stay curious, stay conscious. If this stirred something inside you, subscribe, like, and share this with a fellow seeker.